So I've come to Liskeard Hospital to meet with Ysanne, who's a speech and language therapist, and Hermione, who's the parent of a child with DLD. And today is, on the day that we're recording this, it is Developmental Language Disorder Awareness Day. Thank you both for coming down and joining me. Hermione, it's your daughter that's been diagnosed with DLD, isn't it? What age was she when she was diagnosed?
7, so it's about 5-6 weeks ago now.
Oh wow, so it's quite a recent diagnosis then.
Yes.
Did you see any early signs early on that you might have suspected something wasn't quite right?
I noticed something just before lockdown where she wasn't saying all her words correctly, like upside down and backwards. And I pointed it out to a nursery practitioner and she agreed after listening and tried to get some help from there. But we were refused about 4 times because she could put 2-3 words together.
Yeah.
Whether they were forwards or backwards, it didn't matter. And then finally got a yes, and then they started us down the whole autistic and ADHD. And then a couple speech and language therapy ladies later, we finally got a diagnosis, and I didn't even know what it was.
No. So let's talk about what it is then. You're saying, what is developmental language disorder?
Developmental language disorder, or DLD, is what it's kind of commonly known as. So it's used to describe a significant difficulty understanding and using language. So like you were just saying, kind of words maybe muddled or like upside down. And a bit like you're saying, it's often described as a hidden disability because it's quite hard to spot and diagnose, and often can kind of be misinterpreted as other difficulties or things like behavioural needs as well. And we know it's a neurodevelopmental condition, which is kind of a subtle difference in the brain, and probably some genetic and environmental links as well. But we still have a lot to learn about what causes DLD, but we know it's nothing that parents have ever done, but I'm not talking to their children or reading enough.
Yeah. How common is it?
So about 1 in 14 children have it. So you're thinking 2 in every classroom, which is a big part of the population, given that, like you say, you hadn't heard of it until, you got the diagnosis.
Yeah, never heard of it.
It's not something that disappears either, is it? It's something that you learn to live with through childhood and into adulthood as well, isn't it?
Yeah, no, absolutely. So it's kind of a diagnosis that's talks about persistent difficulties, and obviously difficulties and needs change over time, and we learn strategies to manage them. But it's difficulties that last into adulthood as well.
What do you think the signs and symptoms are of a child that might have DLD?
So again, it varies from kind of person to person, but you might see difficulties following instructions, or maybe they need a little bit more time to follow instructions, or it might be better if they have like the visual steps of the instructions. You might kind of have difficulties like understanding different types of questions, particularly if it's a more complex like why or how question that like means you have to read between the lines or make a prediction or think about how people are feeling. Exactly what you said. You might see difficulties with sentence order, like switching the words around or missing off the kind of little grammatical endings as well.
And so those are the sorts of things that you recognise, weren't they, in your child? Yeah.
My daughter says cat, tat, so it's backwards.
Yeah.
And gog rather than dog, constantly. I just repeat the word the right way.
I think a lot of it is about repetition, isn't it? What sort of support did you put in place for your daughter? Because obviously you've only just found out, but you must have put some strategies in place before.
I noticed she used to get very stressed morning and night time with the routine, so I went Googling online to see if there was a tick board or something, you know, how you do with like potty training. I couldn't find anything, so I actually got a piece of paper and Velcro and drew what she needed to do.
Yeah.
And then she just clicked it up when she was done. So I knew that she's done without me constantly going, have you done this, have you done this? Because that was the issue. And then like clocks as well, I coloured in the time when she needs to get up, when she needs to get ready, when she needs to carry on. So she's a very visual little girl, so she loves her pictures and loves to draw. I continue that with the way that she learns, the same with reading and writing. We do it all on a board, so you write it all out so she can see it.
Absolutely. You're saying, do you find that most children with DLD are visual learners?
Yeah, really visual, lots of strengths, and like you say, quite creative sometimes. Mapping out language by kind of drawing it. So a lot of the strategies we'd recommend a speech therapist are exactly what you intuitively did about like writing the instructions down so you can kind of tick them off. So we'd want teachers to do that in schools as well. Things like, if we're learning new sentence structures, let's either write it out, or we have some strategies and things we use like shape coding, which uses shapes to represent different parts of the language, which is just, making it all visual, because then it's less confusing. Children with DLD particularly struggle if they're just getting lots of talking, because it's very hard to process and remember and think about what it looks like.
Yeah, no, my daughter just shuts down. If I ask her a million questions about how school's gone, she'll just shuts down.
Yeah.
And she says, I don't want to talk. So you're like, okay, driving the car quietly.
Yeah.
How has the school journey been? Have the school been supportive, and have they put strategies in place as well?
The school's been brilliant. They have tried 100 different things from day one when I said, something's not right here, help me. And they agreed. So they're constantly trying new things, and now a speech and language therapist has gone in and gone, this is what DLD is. This is how we can help her. They now have a routine of how to support her and how to make things a bit easier for her.
I guess that's one of the important things about getting help, is that to get that diagnosis, you then know the techniques that are needed to support a child with DLD.
Yeah, no, exactly. There's something about, I think you said the speech therapist working for you came in and did some like training and awareness of what DLD is, and
all the teachers they think they knew what it is, but had no idea how to help because they don't have another child.
How easy was it for you to find the help that you needed?
I'm not going to say it was easy. I realised there was a problem 3 months before COVID, and then COVID happened, and then there's already a waiting list to get support, and then we went through the whole ADHD, autism list, and then we got one-to-one support last summer, actually here, where I got everybody to drop her off because I was working, just to give her that support, and then I continue with it, and then we had the lady who actually diagnosed her a couple months, so she's brilliant.
Fantastic. How difficult do you think DLD can be for a child when they're at school?
I think if they've not got the right communication supportive environment, is how we like to describe it, it can be really tricky, or if adults don't understand that they have a difficulty with understanding and using language, then like we were saying, it can get misinterpreted as like behaviour difficulties or being really withdrawn. So I think the first starting point is making everyone more aware of DLD and the kind of basic things we'd want in the environment, about all the visuals, all the repetition of language, breaking things down, explicit teaching of language, and that could go a really long way of like helping and supporting people.
What support do your team offer parents that have a child with DLD?
Yeah, so we have an open referral system in speech and language therapy, so that means anyone can refer in at any time. So it could be like a nursery, it could be a parent themselves if they were worried and they feel like they weren't getting the right support from school. Obviously schools can refer in. And we have basically what we call an episodes of care service. So it means we offer kind of blocks of intervention, which is what you had here, to work on the kind of specific strategies or do a bit of assessment to try and work out what is causing the difficulties, and then we will kind of describe everything that's needed, put it in place, and then kind of hand it over.
Well, I've got a course in November, 6-week course, where it's a big group, or I think there's like 12 of us, where we get to learn how to help a better way and how to support our child.
Oh, brilliant.
Didn't even know those existed, so
No.
I'm quite excited.
Is that an online course?
No, it's actually go and sit in a group.
Is it? Oh, fantastic. Oh, that's brilliant. Now that you've got the diagnosis, how did it make you feel knowing that you actually know what your child has?
It's two ways. So as a parent, I was upset.
Yeah.
Because obviously you want the best for your child.
Of course you do.
And that that hurt, but and now have something I can base things on. I can now push it. But everybody, when they have a conversation with her, and you look at them where they're like, what is she saying? And I can correct them. I can just say she's got DLD, and most of them go, sorry, what's that? And then you explain it and they get it. But a lot of people don't know what it is, so that's why I'm here. Hopefully we'll spread the news a little bit. But yeah, now I know how I can help her. I'm happier. Because I just felt I was hitting my head against a wall sometimes.
Yeah. What advice would you give to parents who may be noticing that their child is having difficulties?
Little steps. We don't need to race. Little steps. My daughter used to say norning instead of morning, and we've now got it to morning. But I must say I miss norning a bit more.
Yeah.
But it's little steps. It's not running a race here. It's little steps that will help as those little battles, and just support your child as much as you can, and as a parent fight your way through so you can help them.
And you're saying, what's the best route for parents to take if they feel their child has DLD?
So I think initially, I suppose it depends on the age of the child. So often the first people a parent would come across is the health visitor. So they're good people to talk to, and they can give some like early language advice about kind of, like you're saying, like modelling words, modelling language. I'm using play. And then again, if they're in a nursery or a school, speak to what's called a SENCO, so the Special Educational Needs Coordinator, and just kind of say what you're noticing, I think, and be persistent, and see what nurseries and schools have in place, because they hopefully have a really good communication supportive environment. They hopefully will be running some kind of what we call targeted language groups, so they kind of get that a bit more language modelling and enrichment. And then again, if all that's been in place and something's still isn't quite right, and like that gut feeling's there, then refer on to us, and hopefully we can join the dots together and even make a diagnosis or give a bit more specific advice about the training or a parent group you can go to, or a programme that's kind of needed.
Yeah, I was always told just to repeat what she said without the pressure of saying that's not how you say it, this is. And that sort of thing seems to be helping. So little steps for parents, little steps.
Yeah, not probably putting too much pressure on yourself to suddenly do everything.
Don't stress yourself out, just little steps with her or him.
And they'll get there.
They'll get there. They just might take a little bit longer.
Well, it's been great to speak to both of you. Thank you so much for sharing your time and your experience as well.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me, and thank you so much for coming and sharing your experience.